one man saying that is fine. If that's your opinion and you're not in it, that's fine. But there is an entire market of millions and millions of people that agree that it is a store of value. So, you can think one thing, but there's also a market, and markets tend to become efficient over time.
We do know that you will always get paid in Hex on a daily basis. And that is truly the miracle that we call Hex, because it is trustless interest, trustless yield. Nothing will stop that contract from running.
Tariff. Welcome everybody to the Creed of Crypto. My name is Broke Boy Crypto. I am here with, as always, my friend and co-host Crypto Ewok. We welcome you in the chat. Hexagon lost in Asia. Welcome in with a lot of stuff going on between our countries and a country within your continent right now. Hexagon in Asia. We'll get to that tonight. Valiant, Low Key, The Rat, always one of my favorite names. Welcome into all of you. Hit the like on the way in. Help support the channel. Help support Real DeFi. Help support Pulse Chain. We got a lot to get to tonight. Has Trump's tariff wars here caused us to skip a crypto bull market? And we get interesting news. I mean, man, there's like 15 pieces of news every single day with this stuff. I mean, going into the weekend, things were uber bearish sentiment-wise for the weak hands, which we're going to get to this tonight, Ewok, but like just a kind of TradFi people that are in stocks, and that's kind of their only hope of going up, ever. And a lot of concern there. But in crypto, we're like, hey, we've been being F'd in the A for 4 years now. So I mean, this is a party for us right now. But we'll get to that. There's been all kinds of news. Of course, the latest from Trump today is that he puts a 90-day pause on all other countries' tariffs and singles out China. They're going back and forth, with a pissing match here, upping the ante on each of their tariff situations. And both occasionally sound like they're going to come to the table. It's just who's going to break first. And it's fun to watch it all. But we've had some absolutely crazy stuff here. Cornelius, yep, you're right. Ewok doesn't care. So welcome into all of you. Hit the like button. We appreciate you guys being here. Ewok, how are you feeling? I know it was kind of a long day for you, and I don't know how much news you saw, but in terms of the last week and so, I mean, obviously you've seen what's been going on. I mean, it's just crazy, what's going on macro in the world right now, and also all of these markets, I mean, stock market included. So, yeah.
Well, it's funny because a lot of times, a lot of this is fear porn. I mean, a ton of it in the media, and, because so much of the media is left controlled, left owned, they are saying anything to create the fear of God into people that Trump's doing a horrible job, when they don't really, they're not telling you the whole picture. Unfortunately, there's a lot more to this. There's a lot of countries that are now coming to the bargaining table and saying, listen, we'll go down to zero, you get down to zero, we'll have free trade. And that's wonderful. Because for so long we've been taken advantage of. So just people are we're paying them to import their stuff and nothing in return. So there's a lot more to this story. There's a lot of things that I'm sure we'll get into here in a little bit with that, but unfortunately, people are afraid. They're looking at their 401ks and they're down so bad, and we're like, what? This is a normal Wednesday for us,
Well, they're back up like 10% today.
Well, right, but I'm saying the move that these things are, they make 15% down, and they think the world, the sky's falling, and we see that on a random Tuesday or something like that, and it goes right back up. So people just have to zoom out, look at the bigger picture, and not listen to the media. Again, they're trying to create fear in people, and unfortunately, there are some that are selling at the worst absolute time because they're freaking out. Maybe I should take it out. And then today you saw what happened. So, it's a lesson to be learned for everybody, crypto too, because you definitely do not want to be selling at these levels, no matter where you're at. because it will recover. It will rebound like it always does. You know, the markets have done what, 25%, 23% the last 2 years. Normally it's an average of 10 or 11%. So they will even out. It'll even out. Just be patient. I say it all the time. Hang in there and be patient. But yeah.
Yeah, we're going to break that down in earnest here in a little bit. But first off, let's just go ahead and start with the price action right now. So we are pumping right now really across crypto, the stock market, as you said. I mean, I saw S&P was up like 9-10% today after a swing back up on the temporary Trump news of today anyway. And we've also been seeing the stock market pump on fake news, like literal fake news, which has been pretty interesting. Usually that's reserved for crypto. But
Yeah.
BTC, moved up 9% over the last 24 hours. It's up at 83.3 right now, and ETH up double what BTC is. Is this a sign of things to come? Probably not, because Ethereum sucks, but it is at 1680 or so right now. It got into the 1300s the other night. Bled obviously really bad when all these things happen, but it's coming back slingshot a little bit on Bitcoin here for now. Most altcoins just kind of scrolling through the top 100. I mean, they're up, 10 to 15% today. We're going to get obviously in a moment to the Pulse Chain ecosystem, which everything is up pretty much in line with that 10, 15, 20%. Hex up 18%. But what do you make, Ewok, of, just zooming out, pretending we don't even know all these narratives, because that is a good thing to do when you're looking at like cycles, Bitcoin, long-term price action, which, we're all here for. If you're here for multiple cycles, which, is our plan, or even one, that's relatively long-term, I guess, when it comes to crypto compared to what some people's mindset is. But, trying to block out the noise, block out the narratives, and just look at the price right now. Is Bitcoin still looking great on the 4-year cycle? And then we can transition to the hellscape that's been Ethereum and, where it can get to, like we do every week here. But what about Bitcoin and its time frame and where it's at here?
Yeah, Bitcoin it's approaching that trend line that we had drawn on several weeks ago. It didn't break through it yet. Unfortunately, the 50 crossed over the 200, which is not really that good ever when you see that. Especially, we need to look at the weekly for that, and it still hasn't crossed. So, usually that's whenever on the weekly chart is when you see things cross like that is really bad. It's still pretty far away. So that's good. But we look a lot at the daily chart. And yeah, it's creeping back up in there. There is strength. I know there were some liquidations earlier today that had happened because of the longs or whatever people were putting in. There's a lot of uncertainty. What's happening, I think, is these major institutional players, when they're buying big bags of Bitcoin or Ethereum, they're buying OTC. Mm-hmm. When they're selling, I don't know that there are enough big buyers to sell OTC. So they're having to put more on the market. So that's why I think these prices have been manipulated down for so long, that the buyers are buying it up OTC, but when they sell, they're selling on markets. So you're going to get that counteractive, action in the pricing. So
right,
I think we're still okay. I don't see anything crazy bad to see. I think one of the levels here is one of the 67,000. If we start to approach that, it could go even further. But if the market certainty gets turned around here with the standard markets, I was looking here at the Dow and this chart, and one of the things that you said was to zoom out. And yes, this looks crazy, right? You see this waterfall down, but then it just immediately shot back up. But when you start to zoom out, look at that. It's really nothing. When you look back in back 2022, from this level to this level was a good 23% almost. This level that we're dealing with today is 17%. Mm-hmm. So it's really nothing. And I don't know if you remember or not, but back here is whenever they're like, oh, maybe we should change the definition of recession.
Oh yes, yeah, because
Do you
we've
remember
technically
how they were?
we've been in one already. Yes.
Yeah, like they were protecting it because again, it's the fear porn that the
So it's the Biden
media.
administration then too. So
Well, yeah, well, that's what I mean. They were protecting um, the Biden administration by changing the definition. Now they want to say, well, it's you know it's going to happen. There's no way that it can't happen. We're going into recession. So, we're not even near what the drops were. Now, obviously, that was a little bit more. That was over the course of how many
longer
days
time.
was
Yeah.
that? Yeah, I mean, you're looking at 198 days for that. This has been a little bit shorter, obviously.
Like 3 days.
Well, it's been a matter of 53 days.
Yeah.
So, yes, it is. But when you start the changes of the tariffs and things like that, people panic. And especially with the media piling on top of it, you're going to get some very, very irrational feelings in people. And that's what operates all markets is irrational people making decisions based upon feelings rather than zooming out and looking at the chart and saying, yeah, it's really not that bad. It'll recover like it always does. The trend shows that. So, yeah. But as far as BTC goes, I think it's going to be just fine. We are setting up for, this reminds me a lot of how 2017 went. And in April is when it really started to take off and point the trajectory upwards. And then in the early fall is when it really, really went crazy. It lasted till the end of the year. Obviously, Christmas around there was the top. And then that was it. So I think this is shaping up to kind of be more like a 2017 cycle than anything. But I think we're going to be okay. I'm not panicking yet.
No, I definitely would not be panicking. In terms of the Bitcoin price, I mean, it is looked really well. I mean, it really hasn't even gotten down. So that 72K is a large number that people have been focusing on, where if that structure were broken on a weekly close or two, then okay, maybe you could start having a conversation that we're in a different type of market now. We haven't seen that. It went down to about the 75 area, and now off this news today, it's pumped up. My God, I mean, 8K over the last couple of days. So, yeah, definitely still looking strong. In terms of you know what, I will just say this real quick to cap off BTC. Bob Lucas, who 4-year cycle guy. I guess I would say Bitcoin maxi because that's like the main thing that he long-term trades, but he does hold Ethereum and of course Solana, like whatever is the popular stuff is. But it was interesting that he and his model portfolio, which is like what he supposedly personally invests, he does these videos all the time, sold a third of his position actually over the weekend, just a third. So obviously, like a lot of the headlines, like, oh, Bob Lucas sold. What does he think now and everything? And I watched one of his videos the other day, and he's like, it just represents my feelings that there's a potential that we could have seen the top, but obviously he only sold a third. So what does that tell you? And he largely was like, I still think the bull market structure is there. I think that we could see BTC over 200K and stuff. He actually even spoke about like the Trump administration being pro crypto and everything. So he definitely is still in it long term. And
But is he?
Yeah, see, I knew me bringing this up on this show would turn into like fuck Bob Lucas and all this stuff, but like, not only about you, Ewok, but Digital Money Markets here too. I'm with you. We have bigger fish to fry. We're not going anywhere. Obviously, we didn't sell a goddamn dime because we got brass balls up in here. But Bob Lucas, he's a boomer. You know what I mean? Like he's, it's and. I'm not blaming him for what he's doing. He sold a third, and his thesis is still the same. But we're out here to make gains that Bob Lucas isn't really trying to make.
Sure, I get that.
So
I'm just wondering, if somebody says they're still bullish and they still have conviction that the bull market is still on, but yet I'm still going to sell a third of my position.
What's only a third?
Well, that's still a considerable amount.
Yeah,
I get unless he thinks it's going lower and he if he's not saying that, and I think it's going to go lower, that's why I sold in. And if I'll use that capital to buy back in, that'd be one thing. But it's just a weird. I don't know. It seems a little.
It is funny that I get it. I mean, like, it's one of those things where, like, oh, what changed or whatever. Like, the price goes down, so you sell. But I get it. It was a third of his position. It was because of what's going on narrative wise and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, I disagree and wouldn't sell anything at all. But but also we're down only for years. Bitcoin, he was buying Bitcoin at the lows of the bear market. He started buying at 17K. So I understand, he's already up on that position and whatever. I just an interesting point of a guy who has a large following that's more of a BTC maxi that, did sell some of it the other day. So interesting
Fair
to
enough.
see. But
if that's his average entry point, then that's different. So
I don't know if it's average, but he was definitely buying a lot then. Yeah, I remember him saying that. Anywho, we can move on from that. How about ETH? How dead is it?
Dead.
Yeah, it's pretty much
it's taking a beating. Let's take a look at that old ratio that we love to look at. 0.0219.
That's up. It was actually below 0.02 the other day. So
yeah, it was 0.181. Yeah, 182 was around the bottom. Yeah, so at least that's recovering a little bit. Not much. I think Vitalik needs to send some postcards.
I think he does. He needs to get in a room, start writing for sure. Get his face out of a hooker's butt, and start writing some postcards.
Yeah, structure's definitely in a downward. I mean, if we can make a little bit of a higher high and get above some of these ranges, which would put, let me see, what would that put the price? We need to definitely get back to 1900, 2000 here soon. Or it could just lose a lot of people's faith. Again, this trend, this downtrend is just not showing a whole lot of strength other than the occasional big green candle. You had one big green candle here that came back, back in February. You had another one here in March. Now you've got this one in April. It's like one big green candle a month, just kind of keeps us coming back, keeps us hanging on. But other than that, it's been just sell off. And that's what I can't quite figure out. Cause like I said, a lot of these big institutions are just buying this stuff up. Which, could be pulling that arrow back for just a launch whenever they decide to do anything with the ETFs or whatever it may be. But we know major institutions are still buying massive amounts at these prices.
Yeah. That's one thing.
Chart.
That's one thing that has been different this cycle. Yeah, is we do know that about even Ethereum with the Ethereum ETF. But yeah, I mean, like I've been saying for a while, I do think that there's no way we're seeing anywhere near like a 20K Ethereum or anything this cycle, like some people hoped for and predicted before. I think if we do get, optimistically 200K, 250K BTC, which would be, I mean, I would take in a heartbeat. I don't know. I mean, I was saying like maybe 12K Ethereum last week. I honestly, I would totally take that. I mean, at this point, I know it's only a little over 2K from last cycle, but it's shown. I mean, we're this far in. I mean, we're at April 2025, and it's just shown utter weakness. I would love to be proven a fool and have this clipped and be played back and, make fun of me and stuff like that. But I just don't see the 15 to 20K potential for ETH coming this cycle. So, yeah.
I still do. I think 15, 16,000 is still quite reasonable. Again, once things get heated up, green candles turn everybody into buyers, and it's crazy how quickly you'll see a change. I mean, this will be your first intro. This will be your first full market cycle, I think. And when the things start running, they will all just really take off. It will be, we'll be off to the races whenever it happens.
Yeah, you missed his previous comment. Marco says ETH is going to $1,100. So, I mean, honestly, Marco, it's pretty much already happened. I mean, it was in the 1300s the other night. Like, and I was saying the same thing, Marco, over the weekend when we were seeing it just die. I was like, it literally might as well just go to its bear market low at this point. Just go touch like $900. I mean, we're pretty much there. Like, just go do that and let's get out of here. But the fact that ETH has gone down here makes me feel comfortable that it will get out of here, I think, relatively quickly. And actually, that's the same thing with BTC that we were saying a minute ago. I'm glad we did start to see some acceleration down into the lower 70Ks instead of like hanging out here for so long and going down. Like, you want to see it kind of sharply do that, and it's sharply come back up right now. So that's good to see.
Yeah, big corrections are always exciting, but can we continue? That's that will be the next step. And I mean, you bring up the fact that this was back October levels in October of 23 is when we were hanging out. Most of 22 and 23 were spent in this range. So I think another thing that we don't talk much about is the CME gaps. And I don't know what those look like, but they really do have to fill up. And depending on when that was all started and the gaps that kind of got skipped over, some of these moves were pretty quick, up to the top, and they may not have gotten filled ever. So they do have to go back and test those levels. And once they get filled, then it kind of, I know that's how Bitcoin worked for the longest time, when there were little gaps at 9,000 and there was another gap at 16,000, and it always went back and it tested those levels, filled those gaps, and then was able to move on. So,
a lot of things to look to, and hopefully we do see Ethereum start to recover a little bit against BTC this cycle, but we've been saying that for like 3 years, so we will see. Let's move over to Pulse Chain, which you're really here to see. So we are pumping, of course, just like everything else in crypto right now, which is good to see. Last couple of weeks we've had Pulse at just utter all-time lows. I mean, the chart is fugly. There's no real other way about it. I mean, our all-time low was at 4 zeros and like a 3-1 for the longest time. It touched that area off of the initial SEC filing in 2023. It swept it again. I don't even remember when, sometime last year. And we just plunged right on through that and went down to a new low of, which we're actually kind of significantly up on now, but of 4 zeros, 1.6 or 1.7. We're up on that now, and actually we're hovering around the, I guess, support area, or area where we did kind of crash down to whenever Maria, Rael, Higginen, Badoginen, whatever their name is, sold a bunch of stuff that one day on live stream or whatever. So we're back up to here at 4 zeros and a 2.4, roughly, up about 12.5% on the day. We have Pulse X at 4 zeros and a 2.06. It's probably the best chart in the whole ecosystem, especially against Pulse. Inc. is at $1.24. Hex is at 0057. It is up, as somebody pointed out, 20% nearly on the day, and eHex at 0015-ish. So we are moving up, as is the rest of crypto. And just looking at the Pulse chart, Ewok, I mean, it's obviously pretty ugly, I mean, all time still, but we are at least clear from a couple of weekends ago. Things were looking real bad. And, 24/7, we just had these people swearing at each other on Twitter spaces and stuff about PDI and everything. You got people making new PDI tokens and screaming at people on streams about how they don't get it and stuff like that. That's all pretty much just noise, insignificance. I mean, our prices are where they are because of Ethereum and stuff. So there's just a lot of people like within this ecosystem that I think, because they've been here for so long, they think that we're the only dumpster fire. And as you and I always say, we're not. But the Pulse chart does suck. So that said, what do you think about where we're at right now?
Well, I think, it's all a dumpster fire, but this one's burning pretty hot right now. But there are some, when you look at this, latest pattern, it is looking like it's stepping back up, and it has created some sort of floor. I mean, we thought that back here at the 2,300 level, or this level at 3,100, that was the triple quadruple bottom there, and I thought we had rounded out. It was a nice V-shaped bottom, and then I believe
V-shaped bottom.
Love a nice V-shaped bottom. And then, starting in December, that's when the whole PDI thing started to take shape. A lot of money got taken off the chain, and you can see it pretty clear in the charts. There's several $1 million that has been extracted from. Where it's going, what it's doing, no one knows.
They like to
But
pretend they do on
a
both.
lot of people are pretending what, the things, and there's a lot of speculation that no one really knows about. But the clear point is that several $1 million have been extracted from Pulse Chain, and this is pretty, typical of what you see when that kind of money leaves. So
It's what it may look like, but just want to highlight that.
Okay. Either way, we are doing a nice little stair step up, pull back, and another stair step up. As long as we can continue this pattern, and hopefully that is the bottom, the 1805, whatever it was. So actually, it was down.
I think it went to 16 something,
1736 on this chart. Anyway, it could have wicked down to 16 somewhere, on one of the exchanges, but this is the compilation. This is Deck Screener. So, yeah, I mean, as of right now, it's looking like it's trying to recover, trying to get back up. We hope it doesn't get punched in the face again. And that's all we can really hope for.
Yeah. That said, we'll probably see new lows here over the weekend. But no, I do hope we're out of that area. I mean, it feels like we should be, but you never know. And we were hovering kind of around that 4 zeros and a 2 flat. And then obviously there's just been such volatility. But what has been a really good sign is with these most recent big sell-offs of the larger markets, on the Trump narrative stuff with the tariffs, Pulse Chain has not hit new lows, where Ethereum has gone down further. So Pulse obviously is making up its ratio against ETH and looked really good on that. So that is definitely encouraging that we did not see Pulse go down into that territory as a result of all this stuff. So yeah.
Checks My Pulse has an interesting question. I really don't know how you compare, but he said compared to other L1's first 2 years charts that haven't been gate kept, flooded, sued, interpoled, how do we compare? And I'm not sure how you do compare because of all of the, we had a triple whammy of just FUD out of the gate, with the gatekeeping, the SEC, then the Interpol. I'm not sure how you would even compare it. We look at the first 2 years of ETH. I can do that. You get back to the
if you want to pull it up, because one other thing I wanted to add too to Checks My Pulse is it's not even just that stuff, but just the overall way that this thing is built, like a sacrifice phase where, I mean, let's face it, it was like at the top of the bull market, too many people got in. That's partially why the chart gets to where it is. And we don't have, VC seed rounds and stuff like that backing us up and all these other huge buyers out there and stuff. So you keep that in mind too. Like it's basically an inverse design in terms of the who's buying and when compared to like the other L1s and L2s that you see out there. So
and also when Ethereum launched, there was what, Bitcoin, maybe Litecoin existed, maybe a couple other tokens, but there wasn't a whole lot. Now there's thousands of tokens, tens of thousands of tokens, where the economic energy gets split up. There's a lot of money in, a lot of people got a lot of things, a lot of tokens, and dump the price. You look at the first 2 years here. This is starting in August of 15, and you go to August of 17. Let's just go to August of 17, and you're looking at prices up to $370. So a lot different timing. I think Richard launched a lot sooner than he wanted to, honestly, even though it took 2 years. I don't think if he had his way, it would have launched till somewhat later, because we were still in a very downtrend of the bear market when it launched. So that never helps your chart either. When you can get a nice bottom, like Hex was almost, I would say it was timed rather well, as far as launch goes. 33 days in was the bottom, and then it just kind of did an up, all up from there. So the timing of that was a lot different than this one. So
And
it's
correct
just
me if I'm
very,
wrong. That was that December 2019
yes,
Hex. So yeah, that's about what 6 months, 7 months after in the same year of the cycle for Hex than when Pulse Chain did. And
right.
I agree with you. I think he probably wanted to wait until around that time, or maybe very beginning of 2024 or something like
Yeah.
that. I bet. Yeah.
Well, and I think because of the pressure of the SEC, he knew it was coming. I think he had to get a product out there so that they couldn't say people didn't, even if there were expectations. Let's go back to this sacrifice thing. Um, there were still expectations, right? Even though it was clearly stated there should be none, there still
Mhm.
were. And a product had to be launched and put out. It was a very minimal product, but I think something had to be launched, and it was pretty bad timing, if you ask me, as far as the cycle goes. So that's why we're looking at the way we're looking right now. It has a big thing to do with it, and it's just very hard to compare the two. I mean, I do appreciate the question, but I don't know that you can compare. Things were just totally different when some, I mean, I guess we could go back and look at some of the other ones like um
Yeah.
Cardano and things like that. But it's, again, they weren't gate kept either, and I don't know that the SEC came after them right away either. So very
No.
hard to
Yeah.
compare. Very hard to compare.
It is, and those are also multiple cycles ago. But even if you would look at like some of the recent ones from the last few years, like Aptos and some of this crap that launched that was just dead basically from the get go. I mean, the thing is, those charts are going to be held up a little bit more at the beginning because again, they have all these people that have already bought in and stuff like that, and then by this time, the people that built it are already leaving and stuff like that. So
Right.
it's just like I said, the whole thing. I mean, it's interesting to compare, I guess, but the whole thing is such an inverse that I don't even know that it's helpful for us to do that, to
No, not
gain
really.
any kind of cope or anything. If anything, it would probably just make you more worried because it's like, Jesus, we are doing so shitty. But
Yeah.
I think more washing out's necessary with this, honestly. So,
I agree. I agree. Rinsing of the weekends has to happen.
yeah.
A lot of people had got in that just didn't have faith, and it's
Mhm.
clear. It's totally clear in the charts.
Not only a lot of people didn't have faith, but just a lot of people, period. Like you mentioned, and we said a minute ago there, like Pulse X, we know 3-4 times the amount of people sacrificed for Pulse X than they did Pulse. That's why it looked so shitty for such a long time. And look where it is now. It's just stair stepped its way up against Pulse. So these things are moving. I mean, even the Pulse X, as you have there, Ewok price against USD doesn't look so bad either, considering
No,
where we've been here. So,
no, it's held in a channel at least. The other one, has definitely, we've had rise and falls, but it's definitely stayed, and it's kind of narrowing. It's almost creating its own flag. It's
yeah.
almost creating its own bull flag. So it'd be interesting to kind of put a bull flag on here and just see when we break out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is looking like I said, one nice thing we can take away from this recent dump of all markets is Pulse did not get lower than it already was. So it did start to move up against Ethereum. I think we should take solace in that. If there's anything to take solace in now. And honestly, misery loves company. We now got, TradFi stock people ups. It's so funny, Ewok, like I guess this is going to transition us to the next topic here, but like just seeing people that I know from a previous life that are interested in finance but not crypto are just so beaten up right now and butthurt and pissed off and upset and everything. And it's like, it just fascinates me because it's like, do you have any idea the stuff that we've been dealing with for the last few years? And again, you make your own bet. It's, we're the ones who invest the
Yeah,
way that we do, but
right.
just these people that can't take like a 10-15% drop over a few days and think that the world is ending and bitch and complain. I guess like you're just kind of built different if you're in crypto, just mentally and everything. But it
Bigger balls.
has, yeah. But I guess like part of it is if all they're holding USD, so they're fucking desperate. Whereas a lot of the scenarios painted by these tariffs, which we're going to get to, especially with what's going on with China right now, points to bullishness for crypto, not
Yeah.
so much the US dollar. So I guess I understand how those people could be upset. Like, number one, the asset that you're holding is down only. Even if you're holding stocks, all you're doing is breaking even, really.
Yep.
So yeah, I'd be pissed off too and be looking at crypto, but a lot of them will not do that yet anyway. Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll just ask you that as we're about to get into that topic. Like, have you just seen any sentiment, run into like TradFi people, or just some of the reactions that you've seen from them? Because it's for the first time on any kind of like crypto Twitter or finance Twitter, we're seeing stock people and like, oh, look what they're doing to the economy. People that don't even ever talk about it or have any idea about it, all of a sudden they're talking about it. It's just cute to me that it's like, oh my God, we're down 8%, you know. Curious your thoughts on seeing that stuff.
Oh, I see it on, Twitter's a little different, or X, whatever. You go on Facebook and you start to see these instant overnight economists and all of their, it's kind of funny. It is very funny to see how they're like, I knew I shouldn't have looked at my 401k and it's down, and it's, I'm down, $14,000-$15,000. I'm like, oh, well, welcome to last week last Monday for crypto. I kind of chuckle at it, and but yeah, they're not cut out to be crypto people. You can definitely tell why there aren't that many people in crypto yet, and they're not cut out for the regular market dips before they freak out, let alone, well, and again, the media doesn't help. At least we are crypto. Crypto Twitter is kind of its own ecosystem, chamber kind of thing, where you're going to hear echo chamber is what I was kind of getting at, where you're going to hear a lot of bullish, a lot of bearish, and you kind of that half the people, or well, the majority of the people are always going to be wrong, and that's kind of how it usually works. 80% of the people are wrong, most of the time. So that's just the way it works. But yeah, the traditional finance people, the 401k bros, and it is kind of comical to see how upset they are over that little bit of money. I get it. It sucks, and don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't feel bad for them. But for what we go through, and what they go through is completely not even close.
And it gives you a lot of perspective. It made me feel good, honestly, because I'm like, well, like I said, so many of these signs are pointing towards still bullishness for crypto, not so much the stuff that they're holding. So, that's why. Interesting stuff. Well, we will move on to the tariff stuff here because there's so much interesting stuff to cover. A lot of Big Don Trump doing some weird stuff. So if you are here and enjoying the stream, do us a favor and peg that like button. We appreciate you being here. We got Valiant Low Key, NJ Dub, Checks My Pulse, of course, Rolando, Digital Money Marcus, and Shadows Rage, and a lot more. So I appreciate all of you being here. We do this every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I don't know that we need to do like a play-by-play of everything that Trump has done. And really, it's really, Trump and China. I mean, that's what we've got here going back and forth. But we've had so much going on since last week. Today was the headliner that essentially, after announcing all of these tariffs against all these countries with that chart that they had up last week, within a week, and I think this, we can talk about this, was Trump's goal the entire time, or his plan the entire time. He puts a 90-day pause on all the other countries, or walks back like what he was going to do to them, and basically isolates China at this point. So the news of this pause earlier today is what sent the markets skyrocketing. I mean, like I said, the NASDAQ was up. I think it was its highest close in, years and years. I mean, it was like 10%, well, 10% up on the day, not its highest value close, but yeah, he and also interestingly, he posted today, now is a great time to buy, a mere hours before making this announcement, which was very interesting. Pauses all tariffs, but ups China's to 124% now. And then I think China, as you said, fires back with something else,
136 or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And this was all, I mean, I had so much type here from last week that's probably irrelevant now, but it was, he slaps China with like 25% tariff last week. They come back with 34, then a 50 and 104. They're just going back and forth.
Yep.
And this is really all about China. I mean, it's very clear, and with what he's doing right now. So what do you make of this strategy? And also his tweet about like, now's a good time to buy and everything, which, hey, good on you for that, Trump. We appreciate the heads up there. So many things about the way that guy posts and stuff reminds me of Richard Hart for sure. But
they are similar. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you make of his little strategy here today and what we're going to see with China? Because now it's so funny because these stupid, shitty journalists the other day, the narrative is, oh, our projections is a recession by the end of this year because of all this. And now all of a sudden he does this and it's like, we've softened our predictions about a recession. And it's just, these are leaves blowing in the wind with whatever Donald Trump says. But what do you make of his strategy today? Because a lot of interesting stuff.
Well, I think the whole reason for all of these tariffs was to bring people to the table. And the second they did, started getting phone calls from all the countries. They wanted to negotiate. They want to be on an even playing field. And I don't think half of them realized that the United States has been taken advantage of for so long that something needed to be done. So I don't have a problem with the tariffs. I think it was a great strategy to get them to the table. He's a good deal maker. You say what you want, but he does it in real estate all the time. And when things don't work out, there are other options to get people to talk, to negotiate. And I think that's exactly what we're seeing. He's just bringing them to the table. China has been different because, their whole economy, not their whole economy. I forget what I saw. I think it was 34% of their economy is U.S. exports, which is a lot. I think it's a lot. Plus, the value of their dollar isn't the greatest. But the other part of this whole thing is they own a lot of our debt. They buy our debt. So, you have to be very, very careful because if they don't want to buy the debt anymore, then that can lead into other problems, obviously, with future, refinancing that. I don't know if many people know this or not, but there's like $9 trillion that need to be refinanced sometime this summer, I believe. Right. And a lot of this goes back to Trump has asked the Fed to lower rates. Well, the reason they want to lower rates is so when they refinance this $9 trillion, even a half a point would save us billions of dollars a month in interest. It's crazy. So they're not cooperating. So I think this is a twofold type thing here. Not only are we getting screwed over by a lot of other countries, we're getting screwed over by the Fed because we can't refinance the debt that this country has accumulated very cheaply. So I think he's doing everything in his power. And part of that was to lower, if he had to artificially screw over the markets a little bit to get some of those lower rates, to get people chasing into the 10-year bonds and things like that, that brings the rates down. The more people that get into those, the rates come down, the yield comes down. So there's a lot. Yeah, Hex Girl, it's the currency. There's a lot of things that are going on that are shady. And I think a lot of this is going to come to fruition here whenever the two can kind of get together. I don't know if there's been any talks of them meeting. They say they want to. They say they want to negotiate, but I don't know that anything has been set up. So it's going to be very interesting. It's a 90-day pause, which puts us in June or July. I forget which one it is, until some of these other things happen. But as far as China goes, there is no pause, and they're probably just going to keep going back and forth. one says 134, Trump comes back and says, well, now we're going to go to 150, and then China comes back at 170. Let's just put it back at 20%, whatever it is.
Right.
Call it a day. It's just a we're pounding our chests now kind of thing, and see who's got the bigger dong in Vietnam.
Well, if what I hear is true, well, I won't get into that. But yeah, in terms of them setting up meetings and stuff, yeah, I think, I mean, we who knows what's real and what's not, because we're seeing like Watcher Guru and all these sites say like, China's going to come to the table, and then you see one that says Trump is open to blah blah blah. I mean, somebody's going to cave in some way eventually, and this thing is going to die down in some way.
Yep.
But kudos to Trump to sticking to his guns and having a plan all along by the looks of it here. And like he was going to do this the entire time. Like you don't announce all these tariffs and then 1 or 2 days later pause them for 90 days and single out China. He was putting the pressure on them. I'm with you 100%, and I think that what he's doing is, like you said, trying to fix a long-term problem. And on to your point about the Fed and pressuring them to cut rates. I mean, we know from dealing with them for so long, I mean, they control the world. I mean, they control the United States money. I mean, they are, if you talk about like the deep state or something like that, the Fed is who you're talking about. I mean, they control everything. Why does Trump need to ask the Fed to cut interest rates? He's the president, because they control shit. I mean, they're the ones that print the money, make the money, whatever. And, their long-term printing of money is exactly why we don't hold any of it. But he's putting the pressure now on Powell to cut interest rates. And it is funny because like you look at the comments on posts like that, and from people that are largely of the liberal side of things, are saying things like, now he's begging Powell to bail him out and everything. And it's like he's putting pressure on the dude. He's done all these things to put pressure on him to cut rates because the Fed's against the wall here at this point. Like it's number one, forget what Trump's doing with tariffs. They already were on that trajectory anyway. I mean, even during the Biden administration, we were still projecting, before we knew Biden lost or whoever ran, Kamala Harris, whatever, that we were still projecting that they were cutting interest rates this year. So that was probably already going to happen. The Fed held an emergency meeting supposedly on Monday. We have an FOMC coming up in less than a month, May the 7th, and then one on June the 18th. A lot of people were wondering with this emergency meeting on Monday, are they going to come out and cut rates right now? Like, could we see like a, forget 25, maybe 50-point cut, or what will they do? We have not seen that. The market now has a 50% chance of a rate cut coming at that June 18th meeting, I believe. I don't think it's moved too much on the May meeting. I may have missed it. Maybe this is changing every day. Yeah. But there's increasing likelihood, of course, that they're going to cut rates. So what do you think? I mean, like, what do they cut rates maybe at this one in under a month? Do they make an exception and cut them even sooner? I definitely think that Powell caves and does do it, even though he's, proud of himself and hates Donald Trump and, doesn't want to put, people talk about Trump, like Powell doesn't put his pride to the side either. He's a staunch liberal and doesn't like to be told what to do because he controls the whole fucking world. So,
right.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think he'll be pressured to lower it a little bit. Now, he's been pretty steadfast about lowering too quickly, which you don't want a runaway market. I understand that. But at the same time, there comes a time and a place where you need to do it in order for us to refinance. Now, here's the thing. Refinancing that debt takes away interest that goes to the Federal Reserve. That's who's making the money. So they have a reason to not lower it until those things get refinanced. And I think that's where the butting of the heads is coming, because Federal Reserve sees it as a chance to make a lot of interest. Trump is like, why are we charging ourselves this crazy amount of interest? It doesn't make any sense. Help our economy here, get things in the right direction. So my opinion is I think they will lower it this next one, but probably not by much. But again, even a quarter of a point, a half a point, is billions of dollars a month in interest on a $1 trillion refinance. So Yes, I saw the digital money markets, that Kevin O'Leary clip. Did you see that?
I did, yes. I've heard it like 3 times today because there's a part where he says something about, you know, put China's
400%.
faces up against the wall.
Yeah.
There's some weird quote that he says.
Yeah,
Anyway, go ahead.
squeeze their heads against the
Yeah,
wall or
squeeze
something
their
like that.
heads.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's like, I do business in China, and I will just paraphrase what he said. I do a lot of business in China, and they are ripping us off. He's like, they
Yeah.
need to be held accountable, and he's one of the few. And I think he's even Canadian.
I think you're right. Yeah.
Or Leary. So it's interesting to hear that, and he's like, charge them 400%. So that's kind of what I was getting at earlier when I said they're going to keep going back and forth. We'll see where it ends up and the negotiation, but yeah, I do feel that they will lower rates, probably not much. We may see 0.25, whatever. I think we'll be pressed to see a half a point, but don't rule it out yet. We could tank the markets again quickly, clearly,
Yeah.
and that could change their opinion again. So
as of right now, there is only a 24%. The market thinks that there will be a cut of at least 25 points on the May 7th meeting. 75% believe that there will be no change right now. Anyway, that's for the May 7th meeting. I don't know if there's a way to toggle over to the, yeah. Let me look at June 18th. Yep. 54% think that there will be a 25-point cut by the June meeting. So kind of tepid actually with how much is going on right now, but yeah. We'll see. I mean, hey, a lot of shit can change in 1 month. So, yeah, exactly, Kevin. Yeah. So yes, and Bitfinesse, if Jay Powell lowers interest rates to his current testosterone levels, we'll have an amazing alt season. Yes, let's hope so. Yeah, so we will see. I do love that Trump is putting the pressure on. Obviously, again, a lot of these people that are holding U.S. dollars, holding your classic retirement funds and stuff like that, they are scared, and maybe they're a little bit older. Maybe it's because I don't know. I mean, people just haven't. Most people in the world are not into cryptocurrency, and they're not open-minded enough or risk-averse enough to do it. And I think even more like events like this and what we're seeing and everything with look at what's happening to the Chinese yuan now, and what's going to happen to the U.S. dollar continuously as well. I think it's just going to lead people to crypto, honestly, because all these results. Oh, and actually, on that note, I just thought it was interesting. If you have that zero hedge tweet that I sent you, that now this was from last week, but he was talking about what China's options are going to be here. Thank you. So he says China has 3 options. 1, concede defeat to whatever terms Trump demands, which is great. 2, devalue the yuan by 20 to 40%, which is not good for them either. Unleash the biggest fiscal stimulus in its history, talking 2 to 3 trillion, which will push its debt off the chart. And I was looking at all those options, and it's like every single one sounds fantastic for crypto. So who cares? I mean, like that's kind of the nice thing. I mean, like as down as we are, a lot of these scenarios sound very good for what we're invested in, honestly. So it's a nice reminder of why we aren't holding that currency. Anyway.
Yes. And no, I'm just saying, then there's a lot of people, and you can tell it's so funny how you can tell how these people lean when they make these posts. This guy's like option 4, nuke the shit out of the United States, cancel trade, shift to Europe, submerge the American repo market.
Yeah,
they hold the cards, not Trump, and I don't believe that at all.
Mm-hmm.
The US,
he's a black pill weak loser. So
it's just funny. I mean, there were some other options down here that were interesting. I don't know. I don't see them now. They could have gotten lost in all the other comments, but it's just interesting to see the different opinions.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason Trump's where he's at. I mean, obviously nobody's perfect, but I think what he's doing is interesting, and we'll see if it has an effect. I mean, most people are not strong enough to double down on negotiations like this. So he is. So yeah, we'll see how it goes, but I'm happy to be along for the ride and happy with where we're at for sure. So, want to look at Richard Hart's response to all of this tariff talk, because that's going to lead us into something that I think our viewers and us will be more interested in about that specific Richard Hart post and a comment that we saw earlier that I'll bring up. But first off, just the fact that Richard is participating in this, and RH obviously has defended Trump, endorsed Trump, told everybody to vote for Trump, all that stuff for a while. Like, he's definitely a Trump guy. And it was kind of interesting because even Elon has been at odds with Trump over some of the tariff stuff. And Elon, of course, I don't follow all this shit, but apparently he's going away for a little while, whatever that means. I don't know. But, RH came out pretty much staunchly supporting what Trump is doing with the tariffs, which is interesting to see. So this is from last week. He says there's a difference between turning on tariffs because you think they're cool and turning on tariffs because you want everyone to turn all tariffs off. At Real Donald Trump wants free trade, but needs to show everyone how unfair they've been to America to educate them, which I thought was a great point. It was cool to see that Richard's in support of this. Now, the bigger thing beyond that many people are excited about, and whenever I messaged you about this, I didn't feel like, I didn't think you would feel the same way I did, but the fact that for the first time in nearly a year, and I'm about to put the comment on and I just lost it again. There we go. It was from Marcus. Is Richard Hart turning on his Twitter notifications bullish for a possible return to streaming? Yeah, we saw him leave the comments open, and apparently not accidental because he's tweeted multiple times since then and still left them open. I think it was somebody for some reason posted this, but it was almost 300 days ago the last time he made a tweet and actually had comments open. So yeah, I'm curious. Let me get your take on that, Ewok. Obviously, he's not in there replying to people or anything like that.
Right.
But hey, people are saying we're about now 10, 11 days from the SEC's deadline to, wipe their ass and put a new piece of paper on Judge Carroll's desk for her to dismiss. Is he hearing some trade wins? Does he know that, we've speculated that before. His attorneys are obviously extremely accomplished. Do they have an inkling of what is to come here in about a week and a half? And why could he be doing this? So yeah, what do you make of that?
Well, I think it's quite possible. I'm pretty sure that we know that the SEC still has nothing. I think they're still going to wait till that April 21st, 24th deadline, whatever day it is. I forget.
21st. Yeah.
21st. Yeah. To say, we've got nothing. The way that she annihilated their whole response, I don't know that they could have had, like I said before, a year to work on it. And they still can't introduce anything new. They've got to issue what they've already addressed, fix those complaints, but they're like, she dismantled them pretty much.
Yeah.
I think his lawyers understand that, probably said, it's okay to turn the comments back on. I wouldn't interact, but
yeah,
you
probably wouldn't want to anyway. Yeah.
No, and he doesn't. I mean, he still thinks a lot of people are, obviously they're not as smart as he is. And yeah, it's quite clear, but it is nice to be able to interact. And I didn't post anything, but you can see a lot of the people that are commenting, and even saw me made a video real quick about the comment section. It's pretty cool. I didn't read a whole lot into this one. There wasn't any mysteries. Just the only one being why did he turn them on now? Well,
yeah,
maybe he does know something. So that's all I could really think of, that he got some good news. The other thing that we still need to, I don't want to say worry about, but the red notice, right?
Right.
However, there were people that mentioned that when they went to Finland, they were kind of pointed back to the DOJ in a weird way, like that the DOJ had something to do with that in one way or another. So with the dismantling of all of that stuff, I think that happened also this week, right? There were a lot of organizations that kind of got dismantled.
Yes. Yeah. The DOJ. Well, I don't know if it was an organization being dismantled, but the DOJ not going after securities and stuff anymore. Yeah, that was another thing that was. Hopefully, we can get to it here because we've covered so much. But that's also coming up because Richard tweeted about that, and Nuclear Herbs gave some thoughts on it too, which was interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, just it's cool. It's cool to see that the open back up to the comments being on. I noticed that there were still a few others. Brett hasn't turned his on yet, who is still the lead dev. He doesn't have comments turned on yet, which maybe he doesn't want to interact. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, we shall see, and we'll know more in 12 days. So
yes, we will. Yeah. Yeah, the Interpol question's been interesting, and I don't know that we'll see that go away or how much of a concern it is. But I mean, I definitely trust Richard's attorneys, like on all counts. You know, whatever they're advising him to do. I think obviously he would never do anything overly crass, and he would listen to their guidance. Obviously, he's paying them a shitload of money. So
yep.
Yeah. Real quick, we will do this in a moment. Kenneth Wheeler, thank you for the super chat. Can you show us what happens? And Ewok, you were actually just talking about this last week. If 50 million were to get injected into Hex with a low liquidity environment using the PM EST site, I just DM'd that link to you. We can do that after. Let's wait first. Let's look at that DOJ thing, and then we'll do this little bullish hopium to end off the show. We'll do that, Kenneth. So appreciate the super chat, man. Thank you for watching. We'll do that in just a moment. Let's just check that DOJ thing. So I sent you the tweet from Nuclear Herbs, kind of summing it up, and Richard tweeted upon it as well. And it was really interesting because, we've seen bullish piece of news after bullish piece of news since Trump's become president of, the SEC reforming. We've got, I forget his new name, Paul, whatever, coming in, our case being dismissed. And now this. So Nuclear Herbs says, actually, if you go down to the Richard tweet that he's quoting real quick, so I can just give like there we go. So it's Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche ending regulation by prosecution. The Department of Justice is not a digital assets regulator. The Justice Department will no longer pursue litigation or enforcement actions. See where I was there, that have the effect of superimposing regulatory frameworks on digital assets. Ongoing investigations that are I didn't see bolded this. Ongoing investigations that are inconsistent with the foregoing should be closed, which is a nice sign for us, I believe. That would be the National Cryptocurrency Enforcement Team, NCET, shall be disbanded effective immediately. So you're right. That was the disbandment of an organization. I didn't realize that part.
Yeah.
So if you want to go back, then I'll read the Herbs thing, and then we'll ask you your thoughts on it as well. Okay, so Herbs says, this couldn't be better news. Let's dive in. The DOJ is out of the securities offering business. The DOJ is, and that's the biggest business they were in with crypto, really. Yeah. The DOJ is out of the enforcing 1933, 1934 Act business. The DOJ is out of the Mixer, wallet, etc. business, which is huge. That was Tornado Cash and things like that. The DOJ is going to focus on actual criminal behavior instead of some made-up policy violations, because all those things would have been bullshit civil things. Pretty strong policy statement. Again, he says, I don't see how the SEC possibly continues their case given the policy directives of this new administration. But as typical of lawyers, it wouldn't surprise me one bit if they wait until the last minute to let the public know, which he's probably right about that. So, yeah, this is huge, even bigger than I realize now from actually reading the tweets. There's just been so much going on. But yeah, what do you make of all this?
Well, again, I think this is part of the reason why, when did this happen? What day was this?
I think late last week. Should be the bottom somewhere. Oh, April 8th is
April
Richard's tweet.
8th. No.
Wait, that's yesterday. Well, that's okay. That's Herb's tweet. I don't know when.
Herb's tweeted yesterday. Richard was also.
Oh, that's April 8th. Wow. Jesus.
Yesterday.
There's just so much going on. It seems like.
Yeah. A lot of things happening pretty quickly and kind of all blending together. But then this tweet was on the 7th, the one that the comments were opened up for. So again, maybe he got a little ahead of the news. Maybe he heard what was happening. Decided to open it up. So, obviously these are tied together in one way or another, I believe. So, yeah, quite interesting. It's nice to see that they're being, they're getting their change yanked a little bit and pulled back and into line. Which I think is a good thing. I think they were overstepping for the longest time, and it's good to see.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And it's kind of dumb of me not to realize, like with the subject matter he's tweeting about and opening the comments at the same time, that seems pretty clearly like it's probably coinciding. So,
yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, very cool. Again, we're about 12 days out from hearing about whatever the hell. I don't even know what the SEC would hand in at this point. But, Judge Carroll, as you said, totally dismantled everything that they talked about last time. So can't imagine there's going to be anything worth its
And
salt.
I think she'll be very firm with that 30 days. Like I don't think she'll grant another extension if they were to ask for one. She would probably say, no, you've got to give me something. Give me reason to extend it, not just because.
Oh, I think 100%. They're on their last leg with her. She's probably pissed at them. She's not got a lot of patience, and we were all pretty pissed off whenever the motion, or whatever you want to call it, the extension was granted for them to file something else. But I think coming from her point of view, it's like, I just dismissed these people's entire case. We're not going to any kind of a trial. We're not going to extend this any further. Sure, here's 30 days. Like, she knows that it's not amendable. Like, it's such trash that they can't add anything new. Yeah. There's nothing else to do. So she probably knows she's just going to be throwing this out again anyway.
Yeah.
So,
I would think so too.
Yeah. Well, that is great stuff. Great news from the DOJ. Not just the stuff that's been going on with the SEC, but now, much more serious agency that can really ruin people's lives, the DOJ. So, let's finish off with some bullish hopium here. So, Kenneth, once again, thanks for the super chat and the heads up here. We'll go to Pampy here and just look. And that's a big thing that I failed to mention earlier at the top of the show. We've been talking about this in accordance with some of the low prices, like the new all-time low on Pulse. We are in this super low liquidity environment, like Kenneth brought up. We've seen it's such old news now, but the incentive inflation get cut so much over the last few weeks. We've seen Hex T-shares become more scarce. All these different things have been happening. Pulse X is already deflationary. So we have all this liquidity pulled from the ecosystem, so things can really go hard one way or the other. We've just happened to see it to the downside because Ethereum's at freaking lows too. So what would you like to look at here, Ewok? He said he wanted to see Hex, but in general, and bearing in mind that all this is net money coming in. This isn't even accounting for people that will sell along the way. And, I think we could mention who those people would obviously be. But, that this is kind of a made up dream scenario, but it is still good to see, look what this kind of injection could do with the low liquidity we're at right now.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I haven't used this tool, but now keep in mind, this does not include any kind of sells. We would definitely have to battle some of that. But if $50 million, I believe that was the original question from Kenneth, right?
Yep.
Thanks for the super chat too, by the way. But $50 million straight into Hex would put the 0.0056 currently up to $6.75.
I'll take it.
That would be pretty cool. If it were reflexive on the reflexivity then on Pulse Chain, Pulse X, and incentive would put incentive at $84.66, would put Pulse X at 0.0014 and put Pulse at 0.0016. You've got 69.5x out of all three of these because of the reflexivity, because of Hart's law, essentially bringing everything else up with it. Pretty cool. What if we change that to Pulse? If 50 million was put into Pulse, let's recalculate that. I find it interesting that the Hex price right now is 0.0056. I don't know if many people remember this or know this, but the original low of Hex was 0.00005655. That was the absolute low on day 33. And now we're sitting exactly 100x from that, up from there. So pretty interesting. $50 million into Pulse would put that. Okay, well, wait a second.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's just equating all of them.
Well, but it would only put Hex at 39 cents. Which is, it's putting
which
them
I would still take.
Yeah. And I think it's because Pulse has a lot more liquidity than Hex does at the moment. Interesting, though.
That would make sense, yeah. But just the fact that Hex doing that well. I mean, that's an interesting thought too, is like how much could money being pumped into Hex, which, that isn't something, I don't know how many people have been talking about that. I know we really haven't all that much, but like if an entity interested in the ecosystem wanted to pump anything hard and it would be Hex, I mean, that would be really interesting for the rest of the ecosystem,
Yeah.
like using that token because it has history, obviously, even though this is now the Hex on Pulse chain, to lift up the rest of the ecosystem would be awesome, and an idea I think there's people out there thinking of doing. So
Okay. I haven't used this site. It's by the way, if anybody's asking, I don't know, I'm not looking at the comments right now, but it's pampi.app.
yeah,
It is the site. PAMPI.app is this website. This is showing the Pulse Chain Reserve, which is obviously that look into RH
right.
website that has all of the ETH holdings. If that were that's what this is doing. Essentially, if you're splitting an even between Hex and Pulse X, half of that, if that were to be every penny of that injected into this, you calculate that, that's what it would do to the price as well. It would put it at $78.24. It would put Pulse X at 11 cents. Oh, okay. And then the reflexivity of those two would bring Pulse up to 4 cents and incentive at 6,300. So if you were to divide this by 3, I guess, I wonder why Pulse isn't one of them. It's interesting.
Yeah, this is my first time really looking at this.
Yeah, me too. Me too. If it were divided by Hex, Pulse, and incentive, or Pulse X and incentive, then you get a $48.50. But it's a very interesting thing that even $10 million of buy pressure for Hex would put it at 34 cents. Not quite at our all-time high on the ETH side. However, it wouldn't take much. It really wouldn't take much to pump it back to those levels. Probably, I would guess 15 million. Now that puts us above it. That puts us at 69. So not even. Probably 13 million would put us back at 53 cents right there. So
there you go. Yeah.
And it would bring everything else up along with it. So that's, when you consider this reserve amount, $13 million is nothing, especially if the price of ETH goes up to let's say it's at 6,600.
You can type in a number there too. I just realized you can type in 10K or whatever you want to.
Well, okay, you can just slide.
Yeah, but it doesn't. It only stops on
certain numbers.
Certain things. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Okay, so let's do 10K. It puts that Pulse Chain Reserve at $1.7 billion. $50 million is going to do absolutely nothing to that total. So,
right.
It just gives you an idea of the possibilities. I know people shouldn't have expectations of anybody buying anything in those amounts, but the possibility is there. So, yeah, pretty cool. Probably nothing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's cool to see is and we don't have the benefit of knowing what the sell pressure would be. There's obviously going to be sellers on the way up and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But just to know that it is a reminder of like the craziness that we could get to and the fact that certain people out there want everybody to be selling these lows right here so we do not have to deal with them on the way up, and that's why, like, if I were somebody that commissioned a blockchain and had interest in it going up, I would want it to not die, but I would want everybody to sell. I would want everybody that's going to get out, because you don't want them there whenever it's time to go up, and you want thin liquidity and be able to actually move the price with people who are believing. So I totally understand, the mentality of letting things just go where they're going to go until it's time to move up. And clearly, I mean, Ethereum is still freaking, even on this little pump today. I mean, it's in the 1600s. So, we aren't there yet. So, yeah.
Oh, this is cool too. It's a visualizer of if somebody were to put that much money in. I just did Pulse Chain, but you can break it up, and they probably would break it up. Obviously, they're not going to do it in one $50 million chunk.
Right.
This is breaking it up in $200,000 worth of each buy, which would
That's
make
cool.
it 250 buys. And then it shows the stair step of how the purchases would play out and along the way. And then it's pretty cool. Yeah, like I said, this is the first time I've played around with this website. I'll definitely remember to bookmark it, and we'll kind of refer back to it along the way. So
good point by Johnny as well. Let's not forget 10,000 people with $100 is still $1 million. Maybe our users just need to start buying. I mean,
well, that too, Johnny, absolutely.
And the new people that you will garner as the ecosystem grows. Like, it's not just a money in what you might, whatever you want to call it, a SAC fund or treasury, or we have no expectations of anything happening with that.
Right.
But with the ecosystem going up, you will get other people that will be getting into it, because retail hasn't really come to crypto in full throat yet. So,
well, and green candles tend to do that. You said there will be sell pressure, but there's also going to be buy pressure with big buys like that happening. You see someone jacking $1 million in, and even if they do it in $500,000 chunks or whatever it is, there are going to be people that try to front run it. So there, with the sell pressure also comes the green candle FOMO pressure as well. So yeah, for sure.
True. A nice site to dream on if you want to check out Pampy app, right? APP.
Pampy.app. Yep.
Yeah. Good little moon math, which I think we all kind of need right now. I think we need a little moon math. We haven't done that in a little while. So it would be very nice. And we're on the launch pad. Like, this bull market's been nothing. It's been only Bitcoin. That's been it. Obviously Solana had a run up and stuff, but it was around last cycle as well, and we just haven't seen anything really move in earnest. If any of you were here at the end of 2021, where everything was just totally popping off, my guess is a lot of people got in then. Yours truly got a lot in during that time as well. But there was just so many things everywhere to get distracted by, and it was like up only and never coming back, and it was just so cool what was happening with Hex at that time, and we haven't even tasted. We haven't even had any of that. There's been none of that whatsoever. Not even a hint of it, which I'm saying that positively, like it hasn't happened yet. So
we are almost exactly 1 year from the halving. I think it was April 16th of last year or something like that, if my memory serves correct.
Yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah.
So we're almost a year removed from that. So yeah, things are definitely due to look up. We get some policy changes and things in our favor with the rest of the markets. I see people taking a little bit more risk. And like I said, it could ease us into a smooth uptrend of a summer. Then depending on what happens when the tariff freezes, there could be a pullback at that point. There may be, due to uncertainty. And then that kind of primes us up for the rest of the fall, I think. And I think that, like I said, it reminds me a lot of the 2017 cycle, obviously with different events, happening. It's not the same scenario at all. There's different, that was the year of the Ponzi, 2017, when you had all the BitConnects and all the USI techs and all those, Ponzi type things. So a lot of different scenario, but the chart looks like it could shape up to be very similar.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too, which would mean a lot of bullishness in that third, fourth quarter of this year. So, and maybe we've talked about this before, some spillover into 2026, maybe not with BTC necessarily, but there will, 100% there will be things in 2026 still running, maybe even by the end of the first quarter of 2026. So that does happen. It has happened. So yeah. Well, I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Some good bullishness there with the Pampy app. So thanks for that, Kenneth. And we just really appreciate all of you guys being here tonight. Hit the like if you haven't already to help support the channel, support Pulse Chain. We appreciate all of you being here every week. So yeah, Kenneth, NJ Dub, Marcus, Johnny Chaos, of course, checks my pulse. and so many more. Yeah, we appreciate all of you being here beyond all. And we do this every Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have a lot of fun things happening. This tariff stuff is going to continue. Look at DJ Moonboy at the freaking bell coming in with a super chat. Look at that. Finishes up his dinner, buys him and his wife probably $100 steak each, and then comes in and drops a 20 bomb on us as well. So what a saint.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate that, DJ Moonboy. You are the man. Yeah. Very good stuff. Appreciate you coming in. Go back and watch the whole stream. You might find it entertaining. But we appreciate all of you being here. We do this every Wednesday night. And yeah, we're going to have more fun stuff to talk about next week. We are still in April. This is the strangest, shittiest bull market ever, but we are not going anywhere. There's more things to come. A lot of bullishness, I think, is on the horizon. Man, we're here for it. And it's I don't know about you, Ewok, but it's nice to feel that like the rest of the markets are kind of down here with us at this point for this.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Springboard back up, So
for sure.
Cool.
Well, we're gonna need to rely on them to take off first. That's how it plays out. Bitcoin first, Ethereum follows, then the sell off into the alts. Get your placement in now if you haven't already. Not financial advice, but this is a perfect time to be buying at these levels. I'm going to buy more as soon as we get off this stream.
Yep, I already did today, and I'll probably buy more again tomorrow. So yeah, I thought you were going to say get your popcorn ready for a minute there. A little TO reference. All right. Thanks to you all. We will be here next week for Crypto Ewok. This has been Broke Boy Crypto right here on the Creed of Crypto. See you guys.
See ya.